It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randykabc@gmail.com. Give me a follow on social media at Randy Wang Radio and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. It is the end of an era at LA Metro. Janice Hahn,
I love the bus driver,
has passed the baton of the chair of the board of directors at LA Metro. And now the new chair will be Whittier's own Fernando Dutra.
I think we need to flood the market with some positive news whenever we get it. Because I guarantee it goes the other way whenever we get the bad news. So I think it's only fair that we spread the news.
Metro had a State of the Agency ceremony as the baton was passed. We're going to hear from Janice Hahn. We're going to hear from Fernando Dutra. And we're going to hear from the CEO of Metro, Stephanie Wiggins. Let's find out all the improvements that have happened to LA Metro in the last year under the leadership of Janice Hahn.
I was like,
And say what you want about Janice Hahn, she was head and shoulders better than the last chair, which was Karen Bass.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. You know, I want to start by saying that I learned a lot serving as chair of the Metro Board this past year. I've gained more respect for the work that goes into keeping the system moving every day. The operators.
That's because, unlike most directors, she actually rode the bus sometimes.
The ambassadors, the transit security officers.
Is it just me, or every time they mention the ambassadors, I just can't? Can we stop pretending that's a real job?
The ambassadors.
It's a jobs program for the unemployable. We understand. Urban Alchemy, same damn thing.
The ambassadors, the transit security officers, the maintenance teams, the custodial staff, the folks in planning working every day to secure the funding that we need. And I've been grateful for the partnership of my colleagues on the board and the steady leadership of our CEO, Stephanie Wiggins.
Oh, yeah. It wouldn't be a Metro ceremony without a whole bunch of ass kissing.
This was a year when Metro didn't just operate. We showed up. When devastating wildfires swept through communities, we made Metro free for all of our riders and provided buses that got our firefighters where they needed to be.
Okay.
We even had Metro staff stationed for weeks in the recovery centers to help fire victims in person. Over 6,000 fire survivors enrolled in our LIFE program, providing them 20 free rides a month.
We know you lost everything in the devastating fires in Altadena and the Pacific Palisades, but here's a free bus pass. That's not the win you think it is.
For 6 months, so that they could focus on rebuilding their lives. Another way Metro has shown up this year is for the immigrant communities that we serve. In February, we made Know Your Rights materials available on our buses and in our stations. And now, as our communities face terrible and dehumanizing ICE sweeps, we will continue to support and protect our riders as best we can.
Wait, these are the flagship accomplishments? Sounds like some virtue signaling.
And our riders need to know that if they exercise their right to peacefully protest, Metro stations will be open and our buses and trains will be ready to get them back home safely.
What if you want to exercise your right to riot? Can you also use the bus?
Part of my chairship was about keeping promises. When I became chair, I said I would ride Metro regularly, and I did.
You know what? It's funny. I very much remember when Janice Hahn took over, we took calls that day. Do you think Janice is actually going to ride the bus? And to her credit, she did. Now, she did it on a very specific bus line from San Pedro to downtown Los Angeles with security, but she rode the bus. That's more than you can say for some other members of the boards of supervisors.
I love the bus driver.
And Janice does love the bus driver.
In fact, even though my term as chair is ending, I'm going to keep riding Metro. I learned what it's like to ride the system, what it feels like when...
By the way, she was on the Metro board since 2016. The fact that she didn't ride the bus for the last 8 years tells you something. And of all the other members, that includes the entire Board of Supervisors, a few members of the LA City Council, and Karen freaking Bass, how many of them actually ride this thing? I don't think many. Now, I believe if you're on the board of directors of LA Metro and you're constantly telling people to get out of their cars and take Metro, go Metro, I think they should all be forced to ride it 24/7. If they have a city-owned vehicle, that city-owned vehicle should be sold. That city driver should be transferred.
What it feels like when a bus breaks down and makes me late to my own board meeting, and what our riders experience every day. I met friendly and dedicated bus operators. I met riders with disabilities who depend on those operators to get them on and off the bus safely. I met parents juggling groceries and toddlers. I met people who take several buses just to get to a routine doctor's appointment.
Boy, that doesn't sound convenient. I don't know if she's really endorsing this system.
I met some really interesting people who depend on Metro for their daily commutes, including a chef who travels from San Pedro to his restaurant in Santa Monica, a Caltrans worker who cleans the graffiti off of our freeways, and students who take that Silver Line to class at USC. Some days the ride was smooth. Some days that Silver Line bus really bumped and banged its way down the street.
Well, it is riding on the streets of the city of Los Angeles.
But riding the bus gave me ideas for policies that would benefit our riders. Another promise I made was to make safety my top priority.
Okay, here we go. This is what I wanted to hear because Janice Hahn's big push was, how are we going to make Metro safer? That's one of the big hindrances. There are a few major hindrances for why the vast majority of the residents of Los Angeles County don't ride LA Metro. And if you look at the statistics, around 90%, maybe up to 95% of LA residents do not go Metro. And there are two main factors to that. One, fairly obvious, even though they have spent a ridiculous amount of money and many years expanding LA Metro's footprint, it still doesn't really go to a whole lot of places. If you're in the San Fernando Valley, you're well aware of that. Two, it is notoriously, for the last few years, been unsafe. People are walking around armed with mace, armed with knives, because everyone else is armed with mace and armed with knives. And we have seen some incredibly shocking, violent incidents that happen on Metro platforms and happen on Metro trains and Metro buses. How many times in the last year have we reported on a Metro bus that got hijacked? So, Janice, what did you do about that?
Another promise I made was to make safety my top priority. We raised fare gates, we added lighting to stations, and increased the presence of ambassadors and visible security.
Once again, we don't need to say that the ambassadors do anything
On our system, although I've never seen them riding the Silver Line.
What does that say if the chair of the Metro board doesn't see all the increased security presence that she just touted?
And at my direction, in just a few weeks, we will begin testing new technology to reduce pedestrian collisions and alert bus operators in real time.
Okay, that's interesting. You know, that technology is available on most new cars. I think it's great. I think that if there was one thing that we should be investing on in this country, let alone this state and this city, it's that every car on the road we should figure out a way to retrofit these emergency braking systems. Because even if sometimes they're a little sensitive, they really, really work. And it's one thing to be in a small sedan or a small SUV and have that emergency braking system. But if you think about the amount of people that get hit by a bus, whether it was on purpose or not, yes, buses should be equipped, all of them, with the same emergency braking features where if something is coming in front of the bus, can't help it all the time, but maybe some of the time they could figure out how to stop it. Okay, I'm with you on that.
But I'm most proud of the fact that we finally launched our weapons detection pilot program. You can't bring a weapon onto a plane or into a concert or to a Dodgers game. You shouldn't be able to bring one onto Metro either.
Again, I support that. I don't know how you enforce that. And it's one thing to enforce that at the big Union Station depot or at 7th Street in Metro. But when you have these little platforms that are just, all over the place, like the ones that are on the Expo line or just bus stops, which there are hundreds of, how exactly do you enforce that? Because it's not like in New York where every place you get on and off the subway is a specific station. BART and Muni, very similar things up in San Francisco. You've got all these little bus stops and you've got all these little rail stops. How exactly are you going to enforce these weapon detection systems? I'd love to know.
And so far, it's doing what we hoped. Officers have identified an average of 3 bladed weapons per shift.
Again, I don't know if that's a win or not, but yay.
And it's deterring people from bringing weapons onto the stations. Our officers have watched individuals turn around and leave the station when they see the scanners in action.
What were they planning to do?
And we also became the first transit agency in the country to install barriers to protect our bus operators on every one of our more than 2,000 buses, resulting in a dramatic drop in assaults on operators.
I love how that's getting a big crowd applause as, hey, we had to install plastic barriers so our bus drivers could stop getting beaten and spit on by the people they're supposed to serve.
I love the bus driver.
While she's touting accomplishments, not a whole lot here is enticing me to figure out where my tap card is and go Metro.
And you just can't put a value on that. And we've hired Chief Bill Scott, a respected veteran of the LAPD and San Francisco PD, to lead our new Transit Community Public Safety Department.
By the way, this guy made out like a bandit. Instead of being the police chief at San Francisco, he comes home to LA to start up an agency, which means he doesn't really have anything to do for the next 5 years except say, well, we're going to try to hire some people.
With a focus on professionalism, de-escalation, and building community trust. Chief Scott, would you please stand so we can recognize you?
So we want to have a police agency that's going to be less policey than a traditional police agency. All right.
Of course, all this becomes even more important as we prepare to welcome the world to LA for the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Some of us traveled to Paris this past summer to learn how they handled the massive transit challenge of hosting the Games. Stephanie and her team have laid out a bold plan for this transit-first Olympics with thousands of buses, operators, and routes that will connect venues and hotels across the region.
Think about how slow Wilshire Boulevard is with one bus. Think about how slow some streets are when they're going to add a few thousand buses to the streets because they want all of the attendees for the Olympic events to not have a car, not rent a car, but take the bus. I don't know how exactly that's going to work. Especially when you have the athletes' families that are going to be renting hotels and renting homes. And I'm sure there are people right now planning on figuring out how to put their place up on Airbnb in the summer of 2028. And this city is way too spread out. But okay, that's going to be great. Transit-free Olympics. Here we go. Excuse me, car-free Olympics.
I'm also proposing a water taxi between San Pedro and Long Beach, where 11 Olympic and 7 Paralympic events will be held. It gets people out of their cars, it's efficient, and let's be honest, it just sounds fun.
Janice has just got a Janice sometimes.
I was like,
But all right. Janice wants a water taxi that goes from Long Beach to San Pedro for the 3 people that are going to go from a venue in Long Beach to the venue in San Pedro to see the sailing. All right. I guess that's a thing the Metro does now. Water taxis.
And last month, we finally opened the LAX Metro station.
Has anybody taken that thing yet?
For residents, the new station means a fast, affordable, convenient way to get to the airport. For visitors, it's a welcome mat to a modern city connected by a modern transit system.
I don't know about either of those. Look, I got plenty that I could make fun of here with Janice Hahn. I got plenty I could make fun of here with Fernando Dutra and Stephanie Wiggins. But I want to ask a very serious question. Serious in a certain sense. You are a resident of the Southern California area. You either live in Los Angeles County, you drive around Los Angeles County, you work in Los Angeles County. You don't take Metro right now. And that could be for many, many, many reasons. It could be inconvenience. It could be the fact that it is slower than driving in some instances. It could be that it's unsafe. What I'd love to hear from you, because you're the person we're building all this for, they're spending all this money to get you out of your car, is what is that going to take? I was sitting on the 405 today, pondering to myself as I sat in an hour and 15 commute to go 17 miles, what are we going to do to get more people to go Metro? Not that it would really matter for my specific commute, because there won't be a path from the west side to the Sepulveda Pass and the San Fernando Valley for decades. They're still deciding what they're going to do. But here's what I'd love to hear from you. At 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, what does LA Metro need to do to get you to ride their system? Do they need to make it more convenient? Do they need to make it faster? Do they need to make it safer? What can Metro do to get you out of your car and onto a bus? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. I want constructive advice here. What do you think LA Metro can do to convince you to ditch your car for this incredibly expansive public transit system we have here in Los Angeles? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. What would it take for you to go Metro? Do you want to see bus-only rapid transit lanes all over the place where they're going to slow down car traffic and make the buses go faster than the cars? Because they're working on that. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. What would it take for you to go Metro? 800-222-KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. We've just finished a year of Janice Hahn being the chair of LA Metro.
I love the bus driver.
And she's touted many improvements, including expanded service and safer rides, and, of course, bus drivers that have barriers so they don't get stabbed. What I would love to hear from you, as 90% of the population in Los Angeles County will not take the bus, will not take the train, is what can LA Metro do to get you out of your car, if anything? Do you need it to be more convenient? Do you need it to go to places that you would actually go to? Do you need it to be safer? What would it take for you to ditch your car and go Metro? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's start with Lydia in Costa Mesa. Lydia, hello.
Hello. I am sorry I'm laughing because I'm trying to be nice, right? So, the barrier for the bus driver, that's really interesting. My suggestion is they have a barrier for every seat on the bus. Because, you're protecting the bus driver from getting stabbed, but what about the rest of us?
That's an interesting idea. Right? So everyone goes into like their own individual pod that's bulletproof, so no one else can shoot or stab you.
Correct. And every person has to enter the bus and exit the bus, single person, one at a time, once they unlock their door, kind of like a bathroom door, but it's plexiglass. And then they unlock it, and everyone else has to be in their own bulletproof plexiglass seat.
So that's what they need to do. That's the kind of safety you want to see, or you're not going to feel comfortable taking that Metro.
Oh, yeah. I would never get on a Metro right now, on a bus or anything right now. I have friends that drive or that take it. We're taking it up until 2020 from Orange County, Huntington Beach to Long Beach. They work at the Veterans. They're nurses. and they get a reimbursement for taking the bus, and none of them will take it because it's too dangerous.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the number one thing they got to work on is there need to be none of these safety incidents, and they got to show a real force that they're going to take this stuff seriously. Thank you so much for the call, Lydia. Appreciate it. So that's one idea. We need little safety pods. If there's a bus barrier for the bus driver, maybe there needs to be a bus barrier for the bus passenger. Hey, I'm open to ideas here. What does LA Metro need to do to get you to start riding? Because we're spending a whole lot of money. We're digging up Wilshire Boulevard. What would it take for you to go Metro? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. What would it take for you to start going Metro in Los Angeles? 800-222-KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails at randykabc@gmail.com. Give me a follow on social media at Randy Wang Radio and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. It's the end of an era at LA Metro. Janice Hahn,
I love the bus driver,
is no longer the chair of LA Metro's board of directors. Instead, it's this guy, Fernando Dutra from Whittier.
I think we need to flood the market with some positive news whenever we get it, because I guarantee it goes the other way whenever we get the bad news. So I think it's only fair that we spread the news.
Metro just did their State of the Agency, and I'm sure there's a lot of accomplishments that they can talk about, including bus barriers for every bus so the drivers can stop getting assaulted. Janice put in some weapon detection systems. They've expanded to LAX. They're digging under Beverly Hills to go to UCLA. But still, even with all these improvements, less than 10% of the population of Los Angeles County even thinks about getting on these buses and these trains. So we want to be constructive here. We don't just want to be negative Nancy's and complain all the time. I want to know what it would take for you to go Metro, to get out of your car. Do you need the system to be safer, more convenient, faster? What do you need to start going Metro? 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. What would it take for you to ditch your car and take LA Metro? Let's go to Mark in Commerce. Mark, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great.
Sure. So, yeah, I don't recommend taking the bus. I tried to take the bus from Commerce to the San Fernando Valley one morning. It told me to leave the night before at 9 o'clock. And it wanted to then route me through Skid Row for the transfer bus. It's just not what you want to do, you know?
You know, that's one advantage you have to driving is no matter what your destination is, you know what streets to avoid. But I guess the buses, you've got a set route, and that bus might stop in some of the worst parts of town if you're trying to go from Commerce to the Valley.
Sure. God forbid you get off the bus and you light a cigarette, which I call the beacon of hope, and then you're surrounded. I hope you have extra cigarettes.
Well, it sounds like you're not getting back anytime soon. Thanks so much for the call, Mark. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. What would it take for you to ditch your car and start going Metro? Let's go to Albert in Calabasas. Albert, hello.
Hey, how are you?
Doing great.
The worst part. Good.
Oh, wow. My show sounds great.
Accurate scheduling would probably going on because I didn't have a car last week and I had to get to Woodland Hills to Westlake Village from Woodland Hills, and the bus was 2 hours late, so I wound up taking an Uber. So
yeah, the thing with an Uber is it's not cheap, but someone will pick you up and someone will get you exactly where you need to go, and it's really tough to beat that kind of convenience.
Right.
Well, thanks so much for the call, Albert. Appreciate it. By the way, when you call this radio station at 800-222-KABC and the call screener says, make sure to turn your radio down, that's why. But hey, I never get tired of hearing the sound of my own voice, as evidenced by the career I've been in for 19 years. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Let's go to Rose in Marina Del Rey. Rose, hello.
Hey, buddy, I'm very disappointed that you're back in LA from New Mexico, but that's another story for another day. Here's what will get me and my family out of our finely tuned German imports. We need a bubble-top Aero sedan with a rear fin and undercarriage landing gear. It's got to run on radium and fuel pellets. It could be a hybrid fusion engine, a cold fusion, or a pressurized nuclear reaction. It does have to fold up into a handheld suitcase size briefcase. It's got to use multiple systems to generate vertical, anti-gravity, and horizontal propulsion. Do you know what car that is?
I'm going to guess that's the car from the Jetsons.
It's going to be available in 2062, and it was designed by Hanna-Barbera. Oh, thank God. Let me tell you, man, it's the only thing
it
that's
doesn't
getting me out
sound
of
like
my...
you're getting on the existing LA Metro anytime
I'm
soon,
not
Rose.
calling Stuttgart in Germany saying cancel my order. I'm getting on a Metro. My people were taken to some psychiatrist somewhere on the west side. Oh, give me a break. And Janet Hahn, oh, God, Jesus, please. Okay, Randy, I'm sorry. I'm happy you're back. I'm sorry you're back. But whatever. I love your show.
I'm going to New Mexico again in like 3 weeks.
You better, if I hear that you're stuck on the 405 for an hour and 15 minutes, go 17 miles, I'm going to call you up and I go, are you a masochist? What's the problem? Stay in New Mexico. Do something somewhere there to get this taken care of. And then
I'm going to have a meeting with my program director tomorrow, and I'm going to tell him, Rose and Marina Del Rey said, I have to stay in New Mexico, so you're going to have to find someone to run the board from noon to 3.
I'll take it. You know, until this Jetson family sedan gets designed in Orbit City over at Hanna-Barbera, that 405 is never going to change, Randy. It's never going to change. They've got this all backwards.
I'm well aware. Rose, thank you so much for the call, my dear. Appreciate it. You know, one of the ideas is to build a monorail right down the middle of the 405. Yeah, that's not happening. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Janice Hahn has left the chairmanship of LA Metro.
I love the bus driver.
And still 90% of people in LA County aren't taking this system. So what would it take for you to get out of your car and get on Metro? 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Ed in the Valley. Ed, hello.
Hey.
Howdy.
Hello? Yes, hi.
You're on the air.
I wanted to say the opposite. What's never going to make me get on the Metro? And that is trying to force me to get on the Metro. When in major streets like on Sepulveda Boulevard in the San Fernando Valley, they're closing one lane out of the 3 only for buses, and thinking that by deliberately making traffic worse, they're going to get me on public transportation when the bus is only coming once an hour. So they're closing a whole lane for a bus that goes once an hour. That's definitely not going to make me get on that public transportation.
Duly noted, Ed, because I see this every single day, and I got to imagine you and I are not the only ones that are completely frustrated by that. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. I was on Venice Boulevard in front of the radio station the other day, and yeah, it's wild. You have one lane that all the cars are jammed into. Then you have another lane that's completely empty because bus only. Never actually saw the bus, but I saw an empty lane. Yeah, their plan is to do a whole lot more of that. So get used to it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. What would it take for you to get out of your car and start going Metro? 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay on hold. More of your calls coming up next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. What would it take for you to ditch your car and go Metro? Let's go to Monica in Irvine. Monica, hello.
Hi, Randy. Thanks for taking my call about what it would take to get me to go on Metro. Well, LA County would have to pay me to go on Metro, and it would be about $1 million. I got to describe my current transportation situation. I drive the most beautiful 2024 Lexus NX in beautiful blue. So I don't mind sitting in the traffic. I wouldn't trade such a wonderful luxury for riding in Metro unless LA County gave me a fat check.
Yeah, to get out of a Lexus and get onto that bus, I think you're making a really strong point, Monica. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. Hey, look at this, everyone. 790 KABC welcomes Swift Nation, the #1 unofficial live band Taylor sing-along with special guest Bad Guy Billy at the Pacific Amphitheater at the OC Fair on August 16th. It's all part of the Toyota Summer Concert Series. Tickets on sale now at packamp.com. But right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. All concert tickets include admission to the OC Fair. Tickets furnished by the Pacific Amphitheater. Good luck dialing. If you're on hold, stay on hold. Going right back to your calls next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's get back to the phones. What would it take for you to go Metro? Let's start with Paul in Redondo Beach. Paul, hello.
Hi, Randy. So I'm a retired police officer. That's where I'm coming from, and I don't think I'd ever need to ride Metro, but if you implemented these changes, I think I'd do it just for entertainment. First of all, I would only have LAPD or LASD or some other bona fide police agency be the official patrol function for the Metro. And they would be directed to have a zero-tolerance enforcement policy, but that's not the gig. Once the call comes in and the bus driver stops and the blue suitor or the green suitor jumps on and says, "What's going on?" every seat would be retrofitted with a button, and the officer would go, "I'm here. I need probable cause to take this guy off the bus and detain him. Of all of you sitting there, if you want to discreetly tap your button, I'll look at the counter on the front of the bus, and 1, 2, 7, 16 of you want him off the bus, and he's committed some crime, according to your button push." So now I take him off, and then I do a Columbo before I get off. Oh, by the way, for me to prosecute this guy, I'm going to need more information. So you all have a tap card. If there's anybody, when I get off this bus, that's willing to testify or put their name on the report, discreetly tap that button, and within 4 hours, we'll send you his photo and the opportunity for you to text us a statement and your name, and then we'll have enough information to get this to the city prosecutor. I'll tell you what, that'd go a long way to make me.
That sounds like a really intricate plan right there. I love it, and I love the whole idea of it. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. You know, you sit around a whole bunch of strangers when you're on an airplane, especially if you're on Southwest, and for the most part, you feel safe. Occasionally, some people get oversold on the booze and things get crazy, but for the most part, you never feel unsafe on a plane. So maybe we need to think of why that is. And part of it is we know who exactly is going where, we know who's sitting where, and there's plenty of surveillance and people being held responsible when things go bad. John in Calabasas. John, hello.
Hey, how you doing, Randy? Yeah, I wouldn't trust one of these ambassadors with my life. So I think, the Metro would have to authorize me they'd have to give me a concealed carry permit. And then if somebody did threaten my life, they wouldn't arrest me for using that weapon. That's the only way I'd feel safe. And also, I'd want to see some kind of liability policy from the Metro. How much am I covered for if I'm injured? And if I lose a leg or I'm fighting for my life, is that worth a couple of million? What kind of policy do they have on these riders? So
that's a fantastic idea. We need insurance policies. Well, thank you all so much for your suggestions. I'll make sure to get them over to Janice Hahn immediately.
I love the bus driver.
Or Fernando Dutra. Thank you all so much for listening to this show. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 on KABC, so tell your friends. Tune in. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.